tussle over Collegium has escalated, with Law Minister Kiren Rijiju escalating this war, wherein he has penned a letter to CJI, and I quote, wherein he has suggested that government representatives should be there in the SC Collegium. He has written in the letter saying that he wants government nominees on two-tiered collegium. Well, that's the latest development coming in. This after slinging opaqueness charges at the existing judges selecting judges mechanism, wherein the centre has now written to CJI Chandrachud suggesting the inclusion of government representatives in the Supreme Court created two-tiered collegiums for infusion of transparency and public accountability into the selection process of constitutional court judges. Now remember, this is latest in the series of criticism by the constitutional authorities, including the Vice President and the Lok Sabha Speaker, who have previously accused the Supreme Court of often encroaching into the domain of the legislator. Now, a month and a half after publicly stating that a collegium system lacked transparency and accountability, the minister has now suggested inclusion of the government's representatives in the SC Collegium and concerned state government's representatives in the High Court Collegium to dispel a notion that opaqueness shrouds the process for selection of constitutional court judges. Going across to my colleague Harish, who is joining us. Harish, जहां तक ये जो लेटेस्ट डिमांड की बात कर रहे हैं, जो अभी तक डिबेट चला आ रहा है एससी कोलेजियम को लेकर, ये एक बार फिर सामने आ गया है, जिसमें सेंटर ने लेटली बोला है कि जो गवर्नमेंट रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स हैं वो भी इस कोलेजियम का पार्ट होना चाहिए. हरीश.
Yes, good morning. That's right. In fact, a new front has been opened by the Modi government in its ongoing war of words with the judiciary over the appointment of judges, and also the Supreme Court's 2015 judgment quashing the National Judicial Appointments Commission, which had envisaged a government also a say in the appointment of judges. In fact, the Modi government has umpteen times made it very clear to the judiciary that it is upset with the judgment which had quashed the NJAC. And now, in a big twist to the entire episode, Law Minister Kiren Rijiju has shot off a letter to the Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud saying, requesting that two representatives from the government be appointed in the Supreme Court Collegium. Likewise, two representatives of every state government be there in the High Court Collegium, so that there is a greater transparency and political and, in fact, public accountability. And remember, this Modi government has consistently maintained that the collegium system of appointment is opaque, non-transparent, and it's a system where judges appoint those who are known to them, and that's as a result several corrupt and inefficient judges are making their way to the top. So as part of this fight, as part of this exchange and rift and in fact the war of words, now it's a new turn, as the Law Minister has said that there should be two members or two representatives of the government in the Supreme Court and High Court Collegiums. So remember, this comes in the backdrop of attack from the Vice President Dhankar, and also even the Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla had criticized the judiciary for encroaching into the domain of the legislature by...
Harish, apologies for interrupting in between, but let me also bring in Swapnil Kothari, who is a lawyer, with the phone line. Mr. Kothari, thank you for speaking to Times Now. As far as the latest demand by the centre is concerned, they have sought that the government representatives should be a part of the SC Collegium. What is your take on that?
Well, I think the NJAC, which was junked by the Supreme Court at that time, should not be revisited, should not be renewed. If they had a problem, they should have gone in appeal at that time. They did not. They slept over it for about 4 to 5 years, 6 years, creating a big ruckus about it, trying to not even confirm the appointments that were made by the judiciary, trying to delay the appointment of judges on the bench, thereby jeopardizing the justice system to such an extent that there are so many cases which the judiciary has been flooded with, and we lawyers have a tough time getting up matters also listed on board. This war of words with the judiciary should end at some point. I don't think it's going to got any eyes with with our judges. They're very, very strong, very powerful, very, very hardened as far as this aspect is concerned. When you have a government appointee on a judicial bench, on a judicial appointment system, there is a strong chance that he or she may try to influence or try to get in his person or that person to get in to the system. Even that person may not be qualified appropriately. I don't mean legally qualified, but what I mean is qualifications is that he could be having some sort of a past, he could not be appropriate or anything of that sort. So the last thing you want is that some sort of an executive interference into the judiciary. The Constitution, yes, I agree. It did envisage at that time that there has to be an interplay between the parliament and the collegium system, so as to both should have a say in appointment of this. But looking at the past record and the executive interference in the judiciary for a long period of time, since the time that we've started, since the time that we've become independent, over a period of time, it has only increased. That's to such an extent.
Right.
That,
Mr. Kothari, I'll come back to you. So that's the point that you are making in. But let me also bring in Majid Memon on this. Mr. Memon, now as far as centre writing a letter to the Supreme Court is concerned, seeking the inclusion of government representatives in SC Collegium, the court has so far maintained that recommendations remain stuck at the government's end, and that is where the face-off has always been there. So what is your first take on the letter that has been issued by the centre?
See, recently we have been observing that there is some kind of code war going on between the Union Ministry as well as the Supreme Court on the other side. You see, the law minister making statements every second day, the chairman of Rajya Sabha criticizing the conduct of Supreme Court, saying that Supreme Court must not supersede the parliament. You see, these are all very delicate constitutional issues which deserve to be adjudicated by a proper forum, that is the constitutional bench of the Honorable Supreme Court. It can't be decided by a particular law minister or a particular chairman of Rajya Sabha. This is something, you see, very important for the purposes of restoring or rather sustaining the confidence in administration of justice. We are finding for the past about 10 years, since 2014 or thereabout, that there has been a slow deterioration of people's confidence in a judicial system, and also we are finding that there is qualitative and quantitative deficiency in the dispensation of justice process for want of judges, for want of good judges, and for want of quick disposal. The commitment under the Constitution for speedy justice to be provided to every Indian citizen, you see, has been completely ignored. We are unable to, and therefore, the system of appointment of judges will have to be decided in a very dispassionate manner, without any emotions or without any kind of grudge against one or the other important constitutional institution.
So, Mr. Kothari, as you continues to be with us, Mr. Memon has to say that there has to be quantitative and qualitative dispensation. And now, of course, questions have been raised not only now but also since the past few years, that how system of transparency can be institutionalized, which can further bring some sunlight into appointment process without compromising its integrity.
Yes, that is absolutely true that some transparency needs to be brought in, or should I say more transparency. But I think we are best left it to the judges to decide that, rather than the parliament throwing barbs or the executive throwing barbs at the judiciary in this manner. This is not appropriate at all, because you see, these are absolutely important constitutional matters. They cannot be decided over some remarks to the press or through television or even on debates. So we can have debates about it because we are a free country. But at the same time, these barbs by the law minister or by the vice president tend to undermine the confidence of the people in the judiciary. And they try to, they are called as, I would go to the extent of saying this is an interference with the judicial system or the justice delivery mechanism to such an extent, for the simple reason, because when people of that stature make these kind of comments, it does affect. I don't have a problem with a vegetable vendor or a barber making these kind of comments because they don't have that kind of influence on the public at large. So these things are very, very sensitive issues. They cannot, and you know, since the past 3-4 weeks, I'm noticing, or should I say months, that these kind of comments are coming at regular intervals. What is it that they're trying to achieve?
Mr. Kothari, apologies for interrupting in between. Mr. Sanjay Hegde is also joining us over the phone line. Mr. Hegde, good morning. Now, as far as the latest demand by the centre is concerned, they have sought that government employees must be a part of the SC Collegium. Now, what we're learning is that the top court is also seeing this as a bid to introduce National Judicial Appointments Commission through the back door. What is your take on that?
Absolutely, because the Collegium is the collective voice of the judiciary, which is supposed to be consulted before making a judicial appointment. It derives its origin directly to the Constitution. The government of the day tried to amend the Constitution by bringing in the NJAC. That constitutional amendment was struck down by the Supreme Court. Now you can't, by way of executive action, do what a constitutional amendment could not do. If the government of the day wants its representative or wants somebody else also to sit in on collegiums, then it again has to go back to Parliament, have another constitutional amendment, which may or may not meet with judicial approval if it is challenged as violating the basic structure.
All right. But on the other hand, of course, there are questions that are being raised on how the system of transparency can be institutionalized, which can further bring some sunlight into appointment process without compromising its integrity. What do you have to say on that?
There can be very many views as to what can be bettered, what cannot be bettered. I am only on the technical part of it. The technical part of it is that the president makes appointments of judges upon the advice of the judiciary. The advice of the judiciary is given through the collegium. Now, how can a government representative be part of the collegium, which is a judicial organization? You cannot do that. If you want to have a different system of appointments, then please again amend the Constitution. That amendment may or may not be challenged. If it is challenged, what the judiciary will do with it at that stage? Yes, you can all, but you have to go and amend the Constitution. You can't simply write a letter and say, I am sitting on your collegium. That just can't happen.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hegde, for joining in and sharing your views. Bringing in A. Sarvanan from the DMK as well over the phone line. Mr. Sarvanan, now as far as the latest demand by the centre is concerned, first of all, what is your take? As far as the SC Collegium is concerned, government says that their employees should also be a part of that.
See, I think this is a ridiculous claim. We have a well-established system, the Collegium system, which has served us well, though there may be pitfalls. And the union government brought in the NJAC bill, but it did not pass constitutional muster. When that is the situation, I don't know what the union law minister thinks. He thinks his letter is a constitutional diktat, so that everybody will scurry and, oh, the law minister has written a letter. Let us give a place in the Collegium system. See, the Collegium system itself has been formed to insulate it from executive interference. And now the law minister has the audacity to go right. I think they want to create unnecessary controversies. They are not able to fulfill the appointments. They promised to the Supreme Court that they will immediately fill the pending vacancies. They are not able to do that. Instead of fulfilling their obligations, they are trying to browbeat every institution in this country. I think this is not going to be taken well by every person who believes in the Constitution.
But also, as far as Kiren Rijiju is concerned, he also said previously that it won't be totally unrealistic to imagine that politics plays a role in appointments decided behind the closed doors of the Collegium. Well, that's a concern that has been expressed by the centre.
See, if you have some apprehension, then there is a way, there is a means to address those issues. Independence of judiciary is one of the basic structure of the Constitution. This cannot be tinkered with by writing a letter. See, we are seeing, this is not the first time, we are seeing the Vice President making unnecessary comments. And now the Union Law Minister has gone ahead and said that we want a place in the Collegium. I don't know what he thinks. I think he thought this is a company and this is a board and he wants some representation in the board. Probably he needs lessons in the Constitution. Probably he has to go back to the law classes and get lessons in our constitutional law.
But also, Mr. Saravanan, when we speak of the independence of the judiciary, it is of course a categorical imperative for the democracy, and there should be no compromise over this fundamental issue. But of course, as we keep on tracking, there is of course a gap which keeps on widening between the executive and the judiciary. Thank you for joining in.